good morning in America, good night in Asia, and good evening in Europe. Thank you for being here, and also thank you for the ones who will watch later. Thank you, Paul, also for being here today.
Thank you, Enrique, for this introduction and the option of this contest. Now, let's start with the session 0 of this course of planning. The idea of this course is based on the fact that planning in football is very, very complex. It is very, very difficult. It takes a lot of work, and there is, in a way, it's difficult to find like absolute truths, and coaches often have difficulties on finding proper guidelines to organize all the ideas that you can work with the players at the different stages. So what we have decided after seeing realities from different coaches at different stages in different football cultures, we have tried to find some of these principles, present them in this course, especially to avoid the situation where the coach is often improvising what we are working. This is especially concerning in the very early stages of the player development. Later, closer to the performance, this is a bit different. But in this course, we will take a lot of time to explain all the ideas that we should work, in what order we should work, or we could work it, and then this can help you to get a lot of job already done by having a huge amount of information in terms of training content, training concepts, how to organize them, criteria to plan, plans already made that we will be sending to you. So I think in this sense we will have like a lot of inputs about this matter, and obviously we will have time to discuss, to explain, also share your doubts, solve questions. So during the course, like, feel free to expose your doubts about this. Then the first idea that we need to keep in mind is that we need to have, or it's important as a coaches to have some direction. We need to have clear where we want to go, where do we want to arrive, and we need to have well-defined the objectives. And the objectives may vary a little bit depending on the age of the players and other circumstances, but that's why it's important to know, to understand the context, where am I coaching, and then once I know the objective for this context and I know where I want to go, it's much easier to decide the steps that I need to give before to reach that place that I want to get. So why do we need, for example, a planning as a club? What is the objective of having a planning that it's common, or that has some common sense throughout the whole academy? The point is to allow the players to evolve, to be promoted throughout the academy, throughout the teams of the academy, up to be on the first team, or to bigger clubs or bigger organizations, you know? Then planning, from our point of view, shouldn't be something very, very rigid, very, very close. Like it must be something that it's always at the service of our players. We need to put always, during the different years in the academy, the player in the center, the needs of the players and the will of the players depending on their characteristics. And this is what we will focus. We will introduce it today, and we will focus during the course. Then, why planning can help me as a coach of one team, as I am one of the steps in one whole academy? Well, if I know what concepts and ideas I need to train during 1 year, during 1 season, it is also possible for me to start to anticipate how much time I'm going to need to work these ideas. Which idea is better to work in the beginning of the season? Which idea is better to work later in the middle of the season or towards the end? Why this idea should come first and this idea should come second? Is there some criteria behind that can help me not only to organize by years, but also to organize throughout 1 year? Is it possible to find criteria where we could sequence and temporize the contents and concepts to work during 1 year? For example, if our goal is that our players will be able to be promoted throughout our academy, and they are able, or we want them to incorporate new ideas into their game style or their way of playing as football players, what we need is that their learning experiences are significant. That what they learn in terms of, I don't know, for example, first touch, support, 1v1 defending, covering, unmarked movements, running with the ball, etc., that are significant, that they get some strong base of contents and concepts that can help them to improve and to learn how to play this sport. Is it possible that with one planning, which is very rigid, very strict, is it possible to close the planning generally for all the teams and that we don't need to change or modify anything? It's very difficult. At the end, our planning, once we have made those plans, we should be able to modify it depending on the evaluation that we do as a coaches. For example, if we have been working one idea of first touch, and we plan in the beginning of the season that we are going to be working this idea during 2 weeks, and then we see that, well, maybe instead of 2 weeks for this idea, I need 3 weeks, or maybe I need 4 weeks. So what? Should I continue with this concept? Or even in 2 weeks, they haven't really learned significantly, I move on to the next topic just to cover and tick in the box. In our opinion, if we want to make our players learn something significant for their future as a football players, the planning should be to help the players in their learning rhythm, which is unstable. Sometimes the players learn very fast, sometimes it takes a bit longer, depending on the concept, depending on the abilities of the coach, depending on how familiar I am creating drills for this specific content and concept. And sometimes it can take longer than expected or shorter than expected. So the planning should be always ready to be modified in terms of, especially in terms of temporization, depending on the learning process of the players. And this demands evaluation. This evaluation is not made depending or thinking in preparing the players to win the next match. No? Because if you are coaching under 10 players and you want to win the next match, what you need to do is to put the strong player behind, the quick player up front, and take your players to not to take risks and play vertical. And that's all. And you will try to, in this way, maximize the performance. This is not the point. What we need to do with our planning is to prepare it very well and modify it according to the needs of the players in every group in order to win games in the future, in order to be able to win games when they have to win games in the performance stage. If the planning is only thinking in how we beat our next opponent this weekend, is only imitating professional teams' way of planning, and from our point of view, we don't have the player in the center of the process. No? Our objective then, as a plan, no, when we see this picture, our objective is to improve as much as possible our players to win games in a long-term vision. Then, when we see these two pictures, we need to think. We need to ask ourselves the question that we have in the picture, no? Like, do they need the same training contents, the same ideas? Obviously, the answer is very simple or very easy. I think we could all agree. No, they don't need the same. No, Casemiro don't need to train the same than a 9-year-old player. But unfortunately, and with all the good intention that you can imagine, many coaches, we copy exercises that we find somewhere, and we don't know where they come from. We don't know with what intention they were designed. Often they come from professional football, and we end up doing the same or very, very similar training tasks with our 9-10-year-old players. No? So we are demanding some ways to solve football problems that are not really adjusted to the age of the players, maybe because of the amount of players that are involved, maybe because of the amount of spaces, maybe because of the contents that you can develop with those training tasks, maybe because of the rules are very complex for their age. There are many reasons that could make one task be unadjusted or well adjusted for every age. But the first thing we need to have always in our mind is that we need to adapt the training content, the concepts, and how are we going to train it to the age of the players, because this will tell us the needs that they have. Okay, then another thing that is important is to understand, from our point of view, it's very important to understand the preference in this sport, in football. Why is it relevant to understand the preference in football? If we understand the preference in football, we can define the development stages of the players according to some clear criteria, and we can follow the same, because sometimes throughout the academy, during some years, we have one preference and then we prioritize another thing, and then it's unclear, the development process of the players. If the preference is clear, how we want to see this sport, it's also easier to organize the training contents, no? What we are talking. It's possible to plan, it's possible, or it's easier to program when the vision is clear. Because if you want to work one idea about support, one concrete idea of support, because how they understand the game, and the other one is thinking about how many sprints the kids should do, and the other one is thinking how many touches the kids are able to juggle, if we take different principles, it's going to be very difficult to organize. And the same with the training methodology. If we agree on the preference of the sport, it is also possible to develop a training methodology that is adapted to the characteristics of the sport that these players are initiating themselves or that they are trying to master. So there are a lot of proposals in this sense, and there are some proposals focused on the technical skills. We have all experienced that. Also, many proposals based on the physical development of the players, and we also probably know that. But from our point of view, the preference in football is not physical, because you don't need to get to your limit physically to be able to play good football. Of course, you need to be from a holistic point of view, you need to be good in many ways. But the preference in football, because of the rules, spaces, amount of players, etc., 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 it's especially complex. Not only difficult, but it's especially complex. So the game comprehension has it's the strongest component in this sport. This doesn't mean, if we take the game comprehension as the main or as the preference in this sport, it doesn't mean that we don't need, that we can forget physical preparation or physical development of the players, or that we totally forget the technical skills and it doesn't really matter at all. It doesn't mean that at all. Like first thing we said, no, we need players that are good from a complete, from a holistic point of view, global point of view. But when it comes to defining the stages, creating a program, and developing a training methodology specific for this sport, for the academy, one important idea from our point of view is to adjust all these things to the preference of how the sport is, and this should be different than even handball, or of course individual sports, or other sports that are very different from the one that we are talking here. If we take the game comprehension, this can help us to define stages, as we said. So if we jump into the stages, or before we jump into the stages, we can think about the evolution of the psychology of the players, no? Like until, and this is not mathematics, but more or less until 9, 10 years old, the kids are in some kind of egocentric phase or egocentric stage, let's say, where they understand me and the ball. This is how they understand. And this is not a problem. This is not a problem. This is just how the kids are. So what we should do from our point of view in the planning is to prioritize those training contents that relate a lot the player with the ball. Why? Because at the end, at this age, they are initiating themselves into this sport, 6, 7, 8 years old. They are starting to play this sport. They need to learn, as we commonly say, the basics, no? So they need to learn the basic abilities to develop themselves in this sport, to survive in this sport. And what do they want? They want the ball. So it's important that we as a coaches, we give the ball for the players. We need to give the ball for them. And therefore, we are going to train those contents that relate the player and the ball. In attack, in defense, but we are going to prioritize those contents. We're not going to train like very collective things or a strategical thing. No, like at the end, it's important to learn those aspects. However, we need to think also about the training methodology, because if we say, okay, we are going to prioritize content, running with the ball. If the training methodology is not adjusted at all to the sport that they are trying to play and to the age that they are, we are going to have a problem in the learning. No, for example, if I always train in a situation where there is no opponent at all, and there are no even teammates, there is nothing, I'm just me and the ball and nothing else, probably it will help me to improve the relationship with the ball, but not necessarily improving as fast as we could in football, because when we put this kid in the football match, there will be opponents that won't let you go forward, and there will be even teammates that may want to take your ball, because in that moment they don't even make a clear difference between teammates and opponents sometimes, no? So for example, if we take a look at this, 1 second, I will put the quality. For example, if we look at this, no? Okay, these kids start to play, and in the beginning they were very organized, but you can see, no, like what is their focus. They are mostly like going after the ball. Here already a little bit, like you can see that the game is not, it's far from organized, and it should be. I mean, this is how they understand the game. They don't really make a clear difference between teammates or opponents. They just think on what they can do, the ball. They have some intentions of trying to progress, of trying to steal the ball. sometimes, like often the kids want to like kick the ball away. So there are some intentions from here that we need to enhance, some intentions that we need to modify a little bit. You can see that there are like players, for example, that sometimes they may even disconnect a little bit from the game. So this is how it goes in a very early stages. No? So we need to think what content we can work here. Then there is a second stage of the players where we focus or that the player starts to think not only on himself, he still thinks of himself, but it's me, the ball, and my teammates. So I still want to solve the problems by myself, but I start to understand that I cannot solve everything by myself. So I start to cooperate with my teammates. I will try still to do my action, no, my moment of shining, and then I will try to play in cooperation. We are in this transition. It's not collective yet, but we start to cooperate with my teammates. So here we can work same or similar contents than before, adding new ideas inside, but similar contents, plus new contents that before it was not good timing to work. You know? And in these years, there starts to be the transition to Football 11 that even they don't understand yet the game as collective. We can start to we start to get closer to that stage. For example, if we look at some example of this age, like 13-year-old players, here you can see, for example, Gabi, and you can see that the space is much more organized. The players are able to give width. They are having some depth. They can be in diagonal. They can be separate from the player with the ball. The defenders start to defend also a bit more in block. There start to be coverages. There are passes with advantage for the teammate, etc., etc. No? And they are mastering ideas that they should have learned before or that they are learning now. No? For example, here, making the first touch towards the advantage, towards a space with more advantage, learning to run with the ball with the furthest leg from the opponent, changing the direction of the ball with one touch. So a lot of ideas that are interesting here to see the differences on the way to comprehend the game. And finally, we have the collective stage here. Like it's clear the meaning. Now the game it's like fully organized. It's much more complex. More players. We have more. Like we need to stay in balance according to more players. We can do things for the benefit of the team, not for the immediate benefit of myself, or not only in cooperation with one teammate, but in cooperation with more teammates. And this is something that it's different from the previous stages. No? Okay. Then, okay. Then this is something that is important. Will be important to decide what content we're going to work. From here, once are clear how the player evolves, how the evolution of the game comprehension is when it comes to football, here we can jump into some of the most important blocks of content. We will see all the blocks of content. We will see all the contents inside every block, etc., etc. But here we are introducing the stages of the players and the most important things to work. I will try to explain as brief as possible. Here, I will start first with the player perspective, player approach when it comes to the training contents, and then I will go into the team perspective. Okay, from the player perspective, when it comes to what we call initiation stage, means that the stage where the player is initiating himself or herself in football. It takes usually the stage between 6, 7 to 13 years of age, approximately. We are working the individual fundamentals. What means here the individual fundamentals? Means those basic abilities that the player needs to learn how to play football. So for example, how to make the first touch, how to pass, how to mark an opponent, how to unmark from the opponent, how to look for information, how to protect the ball, how to run with the ball, how to choose between running with the ball or passing the ball to my teammate, how to actually pass the ball to my teammate. So this is the basic things, and we are not going to separate in the sense that, okay, the defenders are going to be marking, are going to be doing marking and 1v1 defending, and the forwards are going to be dribbling and shooting. No, at this age, we are going to give the possibility for all the players to learn all the basic individual fundamentals that we have in football. No? And obviously there are more things that we will show in a minute, but this is the main characteristic during the initiation stage. What are we going to do later during the specialization stage? We are going to be working the individual fundamentals by position per position. What is this? This is the evolution of the individual fundamentals. Once we have given the base to all the players of support, marking, 1v1 defending, 1v1 attacking, etc., 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 now we are going to individualize that information for every zone of the pitch. So, for example, when it comes to support, the characteristics of the support are different if you talk about one central back, one midfielder, one advanced midfielder, one winger, one striker, depending the zone of the pitch, not the profile of the player, the zone of the pitch where they are, the considerations of how to, or the characteristics of the supports that they should give are different, because the zones of the pitch where they support is different. So the types of support are going to be different. That's why we need one base from the initiation stage where the players have experience in the fundamentals. They know the basics things from the game, and now we can make this evolution. Now I put the example with support that we need to do with every single thing. It's not the same how to control the ball as a central back or as a winger. It's not the same how to pass the ball as a fullback or as a striker. Like every single ability has an evolution to the individual fundamentals per position. And we have these years before the performance stage where the players play in Football 11 to make this evolution. As we are writing on the chat, we will have quickly later the Q&A section. So please prepare your questions and feel free to ask if something is unclear or you want to discuss something. And when we go to the performance stage, so in general, plus 19-year-old, we are going to be working individual fundamentals for the performance of this player. What does that mean? Means that if I have a striker like Haaland or a striker like Benzema, I'm going to be working, or I'm going to work different fundamentals for the performance of this player. Because with Haaland, probably we need to work more ideas of movements to generate advantage for himself, to attack the space behind the defensive line, to concepts about shooting, to end up shooting, to be a killer in the box, in crossing ball situations. And with Benzema, some contents can be similar. At the end, they are strikers. But Benzema, many content will be more towards the association, how to play in association with the teammates, in relation with the teammates, ideas of support. This will be more relevant for a player like Benzema because of his characteristics. No, so this is going to or this example may help us to understand the difference of every stage. Let's say that these individual fundamentals for the performance of the player, it's like one step forward from the individual fundamentals per position, which are general for this for some position in the pitch. When it comes to the team, we will start during the initiation stage with some basic team fundamentals. What means these basic team fundamentals? Obviously, the priority is going to be to develop the player from the individual point of view, no? Because we said that the player is mostly individual, or egocentric, or mostly summative at the end of the initiation stage. So the big part or big amount of time that we will work in initiation stage is going to be focused on the individual fundamentals. However, to facilitate that that the players can learn these individual fundamentals, we need some basic, very basic principles of organization. For example, with the 9-year-old players, we need to make sure, 8-9-year-old players, we need to make sure that they are minimally separated from each other, minimally separate, that they learn to play from different spaces without a closed structure, nothing else than that, just from different spaces. Why? Why do we need this? Because if they are all gathering around the wall, it's more difficult to learn the most important fundamentals in that period, at the age of 8-9, which are running with the ball, surpassing an opponent, etc. There is no space to do this because it's not 1v1, it's 1 against 4, no? Because you have a lot of players there. So when we, or for example, the idea of moving together forward, no, or moving together backwards as well. Why do we want this? Because we want to do transitions like Atletico Madrid? No, nothing like that. It's because we want the players to stay connected with the game. We know, because when you observe a football game, you can see that when the players are 8 and they are very far from the ball, they disconnect. And if they disconnect, they have less possibilities to perform football actions. So we need, in this sense, some very basic team fundamentals in every phase of the game to help the players to stay connected and learn the individual fundamentals that are important to improve in this stage. Second point, from the team point of view, specialization stage, team fundamentals. As we said, here we are already jumping into football 11. So here the team fundamentals should help my players to stay well organized so that we can learn the individual fundamentals per position. If we don't have any type of organization as a team, it's difficult that the players understand in what zone of the pitch we're playing, because we are just moving without any sense. No? Team fundamentals can help us in this sense. Also, the team fundamentals can help us to develop some team identity in terms of how we play. No, it's not identity in general. No, the team fundamentals can help us to develop how we play, how we want to play as a team, and this should be also guiding or leading the process towards improving the individual fundamentals per position. And finally, in the last spot, we have the idea of team system versus team system. Here is, we are going to work team principles with the intention of winning the next opponent. So, of course, we will need to work, when we are in performance stage, some team fundamentals of how we want to play, but week by week, we will need to train, or we need to prioritize the training of those team fundamentals that allow us to beat the opponent next week, because now what we need is a performance from the players and as a team. So we are going to give a lot of importance to train this, and we are not going to spend so much time training individual fundamentals per position, like no time for this. There is no time. we may be able to work some individual fundamentals for the performance, and big amount of time will be focused on the team principles. So we will discuss about this a bit more deep, but most of the big block in the initiation stage is going to be this one. The big block in the specialization stage is going to be this one, but a bit more together with the team fundamentals. And in the performance stage, the biggest block is going to be the team system versus team system. No, this is a way to organize the blocks of contents in our mind. Okay. Then about this planning, if we continue with the introduction, probably we have already start to notice, but what do we aim by having this plan and having these objectives and these training contents? With the training contents, what we want is during the initiation stage is to increase the amount of abilities that the players can have. We are going to make sure that if you come to our club, your kid is going to have the chance to experience the trainings in a significant way of all the abilities that a player needs in football. And in the future, we are going to specialize in some positions, and in the future, we are going to specialize this player in some things that give performance. But in the future, in initiation stage, we need to give as many possibilities as possible for the players to learn the maximum amount of abilities. Basically, we want to open the possibilities to learn. As we get closer to the performance stage, what we need to do is the opposite. In the performance stage, what we need to do is to start to reduce the decision-making of the player. And often when you look trainings, the process is all the way around. Like the process is when they are kids, we try to reduce a lot of the decision-making and close it and so on, and enhance those things that the player is already doing well at the age of 10 or 12, more or less well. And from our point of view, this is a mistake. When they are 10 years old, even they are beating other players, this kid needs to learn many abilities in football, because in the future, he's going to need it or she's going to need it. And near the performance or in the performance, we are going to reduce this decision-making, and even we are going to hide or eliminate those behaviors that make him show an ability that he's lacking or something that he's not really good at, with the intention of increasing the performance of this player during the game. No? So the objective changes when it comes to the players, and it affects how we plan. If we continue with the idea of the blocks, I will try to explain shortly, because this is, we will open it in the first sessions, but during the initiation stage, we have these different blocks. This pyramid with different blocks, it's a way to organize all the training contents. Not like those are the training contents that we need to plan, and we need to train on the pitch, on the training ground. So as you can see, there are individual fundamentals, team fundamentals, coordination, so the motricity of the players, how to run as a football player with the ball, without the ball. We are going to be training the perception skills, very important block at this stage to start to develop. The physical fitness is not going to be trained in a specific way. Like, no, we are not going to train the endurance with the 9-year-old kids. It will be by playing, they will get the endurance that they need. So we are not going to plan that specifically. And we need to plan something that usually is not appearing in any coaching plan in the clubs, is how we are going to work values and habits of the players. Often we say, no, the players need to, because we don't know, or probably they will not be professional, we need to create better humans. But then we are not doing anything. There is nothing sequenced, organized, planned of when we are going to train certain values according to the age of the players, and therefore what actions we are going to do. There is nothing. No, in our opinion, this is extremely important as well. Yes, and then when we go into the specialization stage, it's a bit similar, but if you remember the previous one, we have reduced a little bit the time for the coordination abilities or motricity. We have reduced the time for the individual or basic fundamentals. And here we spend much more time for the individual fundamentals per position. This is the core block of this stage. We increase quite a lot the time for the team fundamentals. And we also increase time that we work specifically the physical fitness, not continuing with the idea of not to bring the players to the limit, to their limits physically, but making sure that our players don't get injured, because football is a very, it's a sport that provokes a lot of injuries. So trying to keep the players healthy and trying to improve also certain characteristics that are important. And we continue with the work in values. All these blocks will have a relation to every stage that we have told. So, for example, I will try to yeah, well, we answered the question. Thank you, Enrique. But here, when we talk basic fundamentals here or individual fundamentals here is the same. You know, it's like the evolution. Yeah. But just for you to have it in mind. And therefore, what we're going to do in this course is to go through every age group. Maybe we can unite like 2 age groups together or something like this. We are going to unite the 2 age groups, and we're going to go one by one in relation to the main blocks. No, main blocks, perception abilities, individual fundamentals and or individual fundamentals per position, team fundamentals, motricity and or physical abilities or physical fitness training, and values for every age group. What does that mean? For example, no, just to put an example roughly, and then we can go deeper and we can open it slowly in the course. For example, we take the age group under 6, under 7. And here we have the block of perception skills, no? Block perception. So as you can see here, perception skills. Good. Then here you can see that we have the phase of the game. Here we have the exact content inside the perception block. So how to look for information for the non-ball possessor, for the defending of the ball possessor, what you need to look if you are ball possessor or if you are not the ball possessor in the attacking phase in terms of near space elements, and why we prioritize those things, because they are under 6, under 7. We cannot demand to the under 7 players to look very far away or anything, but they need to look something. They need to be trained to look something, and that looking something will help them to play better with the ball or to, for example, get more the ball. If you look some specific things, it can be useful in attack or in defense as well. And the key point that we will give you after every session of the course is the whole table with the specific concepts already put here. This is not an absolute or a closed plan. You can modify it from here as much as you want. No, it's a proposal, but it's a proposal that is made. No, it's a proposal that is made, that is adapted to the players, and that is adapted to the sport that we are trying to master. Now, let's try to move forward, and I will show another example with individual fundamentals. Individual fundamentals for the same age group or sub-stage, no? Individual fundamentals, under 6, under 7. Here we have the phase, attack or defense. Here we have the training content, ball protection, drive or running with the ball, no? Depending on running with the ball. When we talk about dribbling or dribble, it's about surpassing an opponent. The action of surpassing an opponent could be one-on-one, for example. When to pass or when to progress yourself, or like progress, individual progression. And in the defensive phase, we mostly include the idea of track. Track or tracking is related to the idea of defending the ball possessor, how to defend one-on-one. We need to help the players to go and track tightly the player on the ball. This is an ability. Why we work this? Because they want the ball. So we are going to help them to know how to track the player on the ball, but with the priority of not getting beaten easily. Because what is usually the dynamic that the players go and try to steal the ball, and if you just go boom and try to steal the ball, the attacking player pop up and already surpass you, and you cannot get the ball. So this is one content that it's appropriate to work in this stage. Only the initial concepts, only the maybe 1, 2, 3 concepts, very small things that we can start to work. We are going to do the same with all the stages that we have here, with all the blocks of content that you have here. So in my opinion, there is a lot of information that could be valuable for your coaching line, for your style of coaching. Yeah. And throughout the sessions, we are also going to show training week examples, for sure, from every stage. We are going to show you different training tasks as example of how to train this concept. So in every session, there will be 1, 2, 3 tasks that you can take as a reference so that you can see how it works. And just a short example, no, of this. We can go. We can go to one of the training tasks. This is for older players. Let's say that we are in the age group of under 13 or under 14. Now let's put under 13 here. And after we have seen all the contents, all the concepts for every single block for this age group, we can say, okay, coaches, one example of how we can work this content and this concept that we saw that it's important, no? One example. It's about possession. In this space, we play 5 against 5 plus 2 or 3 jokers, depending if we use that one on the middle according to the level of your players, 2 or 3. And ball possession, where the objective is to bring the ball from this side zone that we have here with white and yellow, and this other side zone that I'm marking here. Yeah, we need to keep the ball first and try to bring it without losing the ball from one zone to the other zone. Okay, then what rules we're going to have to organize this game a little bit. We are going to have 1 player per team and 1 joker in each of these side zones. In the other side, the same. And the players cannot change the zone. So this, for example, this player cannot come here, or this player cannot go there. This is not allowed. Yeah? This, not allowed. And this, not allowed. Okay, they need to play from their zone. Side zone, central zone, bigger, or the other side zone. Okay. The second rule is that the attacking team will keep 1 player in 1 subzone or mini zone inside their area, and the joker will stay in the other side subzone. Okay, no attacking player will be in the middle. The same in the other side, blue and joker. Okay, then And the third rule is that the defender, for example, if we look at this black defender, as the ball is in the side zone, in the opposite side zone, or in the central area, the defender has to choose one of the sides to defend. The defender cannot stay in this central area. He has to choose, or she has to choose one side to defend. This is when the ball is in the middle or the ball is in the opposite side zone. If the ball has arrived into the zone, like here, no, like this player has passed there, the defender defends freely and he must go to try to press. Now he defends freely if the ball has got in. But we put this rule, and what is the sense of this rule? The sense of the rule is, as the ball is here, all the players should start to look what happens in the other side, like where is the most free teammate in the direction where we want to go. No, so here you can work ideas of identifying the free teammate before you get the ball. You can work ideas of how you can angle your body if you are diagonal or if you are straight to the ball to maximize the space that you can see, and to collect the information that will help you to decide better, and if it's possible, to play in progression quicker. Because what happens here in the beginning? In the beginning, this player pass here, and then the defenders may come to press a little bit, and this player, when he gets the ball, starts to look where to pass the ball, and it's way too late. No? So we lose advantages, and sometimes we may even lose the ball. So we can, for example, train this idea. We could add other rules. No, for example, if the players are very good and they are very familiar, we could say every time the ball is played into the central area and comes back into the same side zone, the defender has to go to the other side, has to change the player that he's defending, so that the situation for these players will be changing constantly, and they will need to permanently look and orientate themselves towards the free teammate. Well, this is just one small example of tasks that we can do once the plan that we have as a club or as a team is clear, and we know how to organize the training week and where this kind of work can fit into the week micro cycle. Okay. As we said, we are going to explain a lot of ideas. We're going to deliver a lot of information in terms of training blocks, but that was all for today. I think it's enough. We can go into the Q&A, and also, Enrique, if you have something to add, it would be great to hear.
I already see one question from Milling, who's asking how to plan 1 week training session from under 10 to under 14.
Yes, this question, it's a very open question. So first, when it comes to how we plan a training week under 10, under 14, first thing is that under 10 and under 14 players are already quite different. So there is no one way. We need to understand the particularities of every stage, of every age group. We need to understand what are the training blocks that we can have, what contents we have inside every training block, what small ideas, concepts we have into every content, and then we need to start to think how to link these ideas and organize them first into 1 year. What ideas I want to prioritize this year. Then I need to know how to sequence what I'm going to work first, what I'm going to work later. And then I need to think, or I need to anticipate how much time I suppose I will spend working on that. Once I have all this, once I have all this, that maybe the EKKONO proposal can help me on this, then I can start to plan, okay, this month I need to work this. And this week I'm specifically supposed to work this. Then how can I organize the week? So there will be one first part of warm-up, that we could work on motorical abilities, on perception abilities, in different ways. We will explain. We can work the main part or the core of the process in most of the days in the week is going to be individual fundamentals with the little ones. And there will be some time during the week to work specifically the team fundamentals. But as I said, very different how we do with 10 or how we do with a 14-year-old.
Thank you, Paul. We have another question from Wayne, who's asking about which basic system do we introduce in planning for the same age group, 10 to 14?
I'm not sure if I understand the question, what basic system, but at the end, what we need to have very clear is like the principles that we're going to do to organize the topics that we want to work, the training contents that we want to work during all these years. And first we need to organize by age groups, and then decide, like based on the psychological characteristics of the players in every age, and also based on the previous experiences of these players, we'll need to finally make a plan for this team, and etc., etc., etc. I mean, there are a lot of steps that we have done to prepare the proposal that we're going to be presenting you during the course.
We have another question that I think I can answer myself, and perhaps Paul, you can help me. So coach is asking, what's the difference between the expert in planning course that we're starting now and the expert in grassroots? So the main difference, starting the expert in grassroots course that we did last year, and that is available to watch and to purchase on the EKKONO Coaches Academy, only included content until under 13, while the expert in planning includes content up to under 19. Then the expert in grassroots course focus mostly I would say in basic fundamentals, while the expert in planning, as we saw earlier when Paul was presenting, not only focuses on the basic fundamentals, but we also talk about perception, team fundamentals, coordination. So it is we offer here a broader amount of content and how to plan it. Let's see, we have a question from Logan, who's asking, what are your views on dealing with difference between each individual in the same age group who are not equally ahead or behind on the same content? So how to manage these players who are not at the same point of learning?
And for sure, we're going to be experiencing this in every single team, in every single level, in every single football culture. It's impossible to have a group of players that are exactly homogeneous in the level in terms of one specific content. We will talk also during the course, and I think it's interesting to debate, like when as a coach I decide that it's enough now training this because the players have learned significantly enough the content that I wanted to train, and when is the moment to jump on to the next topic, and maybe next year we can come back to this content and add new things, no, new coaching points. I think it's our job as a coach is to try to give the experience the chance to train and to improve all the fundamentals, all the basic fundamentals to all the players. Obviously, some players will learn more some contents, and other players will learn more other content, but this is just life, and this will define a little bit the profile also of the player in the future.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. I think we've now reached to the end of today's session. It's been interesting. I think that coaches now have a better idea on what we mean by planning, and hopefully we can see a lot of you guys in session 1 of the expert in planning course that will start on Monday, September 25th. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much. Thank you, the coaches, for joining us, and looking forward to see you.